Hello there, my name is Flicker, and welcome to my updated guide on shadow work. For those of you who are unaware, shadow work is the process of combing through one's own perspectives, experiences, and conclusions, compare them against the reality of things so as to sift through and weed out inaccuracies that can skew perceptions, judgments, and conclusions. Because our own conclusions can actually lead us astray, frustratingly enough. Now, why would someone go through the long, difficult, and frankly annoying process of doing this? Simple. To better live in and accept the reality of things, so as to make sure that they can better navigate through life in the way that they want to. Of course, there are many different ways to navigate through life, so it's not going to be as straightforward as many of us would like to think. Now, shadow work was originally a concept developed by Carl Jung, if I remember right. I could be wrong on some of this, so do feel free to polish up and iron out details for yourself in your own phrasing and verbiage. After all, my language set and the use of definitions is not going to be the same as your own structures, language set, and use of definitions. It's not going to be the same as everything you operate on. It's going to be somewhat different every time. Why am I saying that I've got an update for shadow work? Well, currently, from what I understand, from my perspective, shadow work is considered to only have like one variant, which is just shadows. Dark shadows that linger in the corners of a room and don't really show much. But I don't think that's the only kind of shadows that exist out there. I think there are other types of shadows too. And the reason why I think this is because I consider shadows mentally to not be just physically tied to reality. They're concepts with their own attributes that can branch off away from reality into new territory. Now, I have no idea if how I've got any of this right ultimately. But I'm hoping that in my efforts to unwind and go through these problems and trying to sift through and weed out inaccuracies in my own perception and experiences while still authentically acknowledging and working through the emotions I felt around those experiences, I can create a better guidebook for people to recover from trauma with. Because in a world full of overgrown children, every child is going to end up traumatized. And for as much as we can rely on healing over time to some degree, sometimes you gotta just. Sometimes you gotta make the effort yourself to manually heal. Just like how we have stints and arm casts, medicine, and otherwise for the human body. Now, I'm not professionally qualified as a therapist, psychologist, or whatever. I'm just doing this from my perspective and experiences on the outside looking in. There's a lot of jargon and specific terms I may not have down or memorized, but I do believe I'm close to understanding the concepts of. And I'm not going to refer to that jargon and terminology very specifically by its name if I can, because I'm not looking to fit within the academic circle where we give everything its own unique name. I'm looking to try and fit things down within basic language, Occam's razor. Simplify down to the core components and make sure they interconnect in a way that makes sense. Now, this all isn't going to be very easy to do, so let's get on with the first two, because for every victim and for every survivor and fighter out there, Sometimes you gotta remember to live and not just survive, not just fight. First off, yes, I know I'm using the yin-yang symbol, but it is very appropriate. We've got dark shadows and bright shadows, black and white, as most people like it considering the dynamic spectrum of morality to be. Dark shadows are obvious. The practical, the unaccepted qualities of life, the things that, although frowned upon, are still functionally useful in order for one to live their own life, even if they're not always polite. Ultimately, I think there's a lot of associations tangled up in dark space, because really, we've all kind of just hyper packaged things down into these narrow categories where the most common attributes line up, but that doesn't mean it's always the case. Now, on the flip side, we also have the same problem with bright shadows. Living an accepted and valued life. Living a life that's interconnected and morally good. It's not necessarily practical, but at the same time, that's kind of the point. You want to be the whole point of dark shadows is to live by practicality selfishly, and the whole point of bright shadows is to live by acceptability selfishly. So what would be the opposite? Well, if you've got a selflessness in the midst of all those dark shadows, you can call that a dark light. And if you've got practicality in the midst of all those bright shadows, you can call that a bright light, in a sense, but only if the contrast actually ignites. If it's just a muddled, messy confusion between the two, you kind of then get on to the next category of things where you've got dull shadows and colorful or bright, well, not bright, but colorful or wild shadows. And these are the two spaces between where dark and bright shadows can converge and to reorient themselves. With dull shadows, it's about simplicity and or just living a simple life. Now, living a simple life doesn't always mean living a practical life, and that's one of the details I want to differentiate here. Just like how living a wild or colorful life doesn't always mean living a practical or moral life. Because I'm gonna be real. There's a lot more to reality than just black and white. There's the gray and the color too. And that's not to mention the line of absurdity that strikes through the intersection of these two concepts. The clear and the muddy. It's all a big, frustrating mess. Because a lot of us want to live on the clear side of life, where we can understand things almost inherently without having to really think much about it. Where things just make sense from the perspective we're at, no matter which perspective we're viewing it from. But the problem with that is, in order to do that, you need to internalize all of the misconceptions about life and be able to contain them and hold all those contrasting, confused perspectives against each other so that way you can guide other people out of those perspectives. And the only reason why you would ever want to hold a light in both territories is if you want to be absurd, because reality is absurd. Even if it's all of these other things at the same time, even if it's confusingly consistent, it is still absurd. I'm not sure how much this is actually going to help people, but I figured I'd at least try, because if I can create these tools and guides for myself and have them be at least semi-functionally useful, then I want to see if maybe they'll be useful for other people too. Dark lights can nurture dark shadows just like bright lights can nurture bright shadows. Dull lights can nurture dull shadows, and colorful lights can nurture colorful shadows. In a sense, clear and murky shadows and lights, respectively, are ultimately a of between can we accept these contrasts and see how they interconnect, or are we just going to try and isolate them away from each other until we've only got one answer that covers everything? And I'm gonna be real, one answer that covers everything seems pretty damn murky and vague. Pretty damn misleading and intentionally confusing. It sounds like an excuse and not an actual acceptance. I think that's what we're seeing a lot of in this space full of information, is people just ending up confused and wanting to hold on to their preconceived notions of reality rather than learning the contrasts and the betweens and accepting that you can hold on to both instead of throwing a one away just because it works better. Because that's the easy route of life, is just finding an excuse or a reason that works and solves your current issues well enough to where you can throw it away and leave the past tools that you used to use in the trash bin, or as honestly, I think that's hubris right there. Consider yourself completely grown and incapable of learning more. Consider yourself already fully understanding of the world around you and no longer needing to grow and learn because of that. That is hubris right there. That's neat. Don't think I would have actually stumbled onto that if I had just been going by the traditional methods. Also, I'm going to be taking a moment to, yep. Alright, we're going to be jumping through images. Give me a second. Because all three of these dualities, these relative concepts, relative opposites as opposed to absolute opposites, they do converge within our reality. And they can create these confusing spaces where you've got on one side a whole bunch of murkiness where you've got the different territories of each going off into the edge of the other side, and then here's the other side where there's a whole bunch of clarity in the center, but you have to kind of leave the territory you're comfortable with in order to move around the center. It's like you have to run around in a circle through all the different territories until you can understand all of them at the same time. Be in multiple places at once until you've internalized each of those spaces to a central point where they converge. Yeah, neat. Don't know if this is going to be useful to anyone, but hey, fucking, I hope it is. Because if it isn't, then, oh well. I'm just another fool out of millions. But if it is, then hey, maybe we found a new tool that can help us forward. Maybe we found a new way of looking at life that doesn't need to be absolutist, isolationist, exclusive, sanctist. or scapegoatist. Maybe we've found a perspective where phobias can be accepted without having them dictate our reality. We don't need fear in the driver's seat. We just need it as a friend to let us know when something's not working out right. And I'm kind of tired of seeing fear in the driver's seat. I'm gonna be real. Not just in my own life, but in other people's lives too. I don't want fear to be the leader. I want it to be my friend. Because putting all that responsibility on top of fear just makes it paranoid. And at that point, fear becomes toxic. Because it tries to be something that it isn't. It subverts everything else that needs to have its own space and place in the structure. And tries to rule over every other concept by engulfing them instead of living amongst them in equality and respect. Yeah, I do think approaching concepts as people with their own social dynamics and societal structure is actually a functionally useful tool for internalizing the world. Here's hoping it helps you all. Bye! Also, just in case you are confused or wanting to see a difference in perspective, because, again, the default is, holy shit, there's a lot of fucking stuff there. Alright, let's take this, invert it, cut it in half, and then drag these images in here. Alright. Window capture. Clip Studio Paint. Yes! Awesomeness. So yeah, the center of these each are clear, but to different degrees. And as you move them throughout different perspectives and territories, you can see through one a lot more clearly than the other. So I like thinking of the left one as a good, clear perspective on reality, where you're not really confused and you can understand where things are relative to each other. And then there's the other one where you absolutely have no idea where the fuck you are and everything's confusing. Everything's scary when you're confused. Makes sense. Yeah. We could even do a hue shift if we really wanted to. Let me just do that, and then you, ba, ba. Yeah, no, I do believe this is a useful tool and concept collection. Now, did I come up with this on my own? Absolutely fucking not. There are so many levels of effort and work done by other psychologists and professionals in the field of psychology, therapy, and otherwise that are far more qualified to put terms and details to all of this. By all means, I don't think I would have gotten to this conclusion without them. Now, am I able to cite any official research papers? No. I can cite a few YouTubers who are damn good at helping one navigate things. You've got Johnny on Relationships, Healthy Gamer GG, Heidi Preeb. What's another one? Well, actually, here. Let me open that back up and I can type out the YouTube channel names, because otherwise you're gonna have a hard time finding them if you have spelling issues, be it from dyslexia to otherwise. Discord. Exit out of there. Johnny on Relationships. Oh, come on. GG. Are you kidding me? Reality, are you throwing me a curveball in my plan right now? You silly little bitch. I understand you're playing by the rules, but it's not helpful. Damn you. Don't abuse reality. Learn to play with her. That way you can better learn to understand the guardians of reality. Life, death, and fucking irony out of all of them. Fuck irony. I'm going to give you a solid slap and punch at some point in my life. Holy fuck. There's Healthy Gamer. Heidi Preeb. Okay, so I needed to add the Jimmy on Relationships.
Oh, thank you. Hey, great to meet you, by the way. I'm anxious.
Yeah, no, they deal with attachment space and other psychological things. If you want to get into the whole conflict side of trauma and YouTube, you can go towards the absolutist extremes, but if you try holding one or the other as the absolute truth, I think you're going to do more harm than good. You don't have to throw away what you once knew just because you've got a new view and thing that may be more useful. You can hold on to both, by damn it. You can hold on to multiple. You can hold on to more than just both. You can hold on to a lot of stuff. But if you do that too quickly, too soon, and before you're acquainted with what you currently have and what you're currently getting to know, then you're just going to throw yourself into confusion. So please, take your time. Please. Be there for yourself, damn it. Is there anything else? Oh, yeah. For those who are still working through their attachment styles, avoidant, anxious, preoccupied, fearful, avoidant, and trying to aim towards secure. But I'm not taking a moment here. Discord, the fuck are you on? What the fuck are you doing? And hold up. Alright, let me do that again because I fucking goofed. Jimmy on relationships. Jimmy on relationships. Heidi Priebe on attachment, boundaries, limerence, and a whole bunch of other stuff. She really gets into like the nuanced details of things sometimes. And then we've got Healthy Gamer GD over here. And then let me just pull up another good resource. Quick archives, quick explanations. There's mini ADHD coach, but that's not what I'm looking for. Great videos. There are so many other areas where I could direct you towards, but really it's your own journey to go through. I'm gonna be real. The kind of life you want to live, be it practical, acceptable, simple, or wild. That's your life to prioritize. That's not my life to deal with. Not unless your life happens to conflict against mine, in which case I'll try to work through, around, and with you. But if you're not willing to do the same for me, then I ain't gonna fucking bother. Let's be real here. That's just a waste of my energy and time at that point. Neurodivergent friends. Well, let me go see that on YouTube. Not what I wanted! Neurodivergent. Pixie gags. Neurodiverse friends. There we go. We've got a lot of different animations that actually help in explaining this kind of stuff. It's cute, it's interesting, doesn't try to get into the verbal language, but rather the visual language of things. It looks like they're covering a lot of trauma space too, which is neat. In any case, I hope this all helps you some. May you have a good day, good night, whatever time it is. Regardless of if you're a good or a bad person, let's be real, regardless of if you're a dull or a party goer, regardless of if you're in the midst of confusion or you've got everything figured out. I do wish that the day treats you well, that time treats you well, even if other people don't. And that if time doesn't treat you well, I hope things either improve or at least stay manageable for you out there. There's a whole bunch of chaos, and though chaos is powered, it is also uncontrolled power. You gotta understand the chaos before you can actually control it. And even then, you must first respect it, because you cannot control it 100%. It's like working with a business partner and friend more so than trying to just get a machine to do what you want. You can't rule over the world. So please, stop trying, okay?